So, towards the end of last year, I decided I wanted to start exploring fretwork. I found some patterns and set about doing some small projects to practice on my scroll saw. All of that was sort of being led up to this year when I wanted to do something really spectacular and decided to make a Father's Day / birthday present for my dad. My dad has been a huge fan of trains and woodworking and crafting for years. So I stumbled upon this pattern and thought it would just be a lot of fun. It would be something to work on while I was stuck at home during the COVID stay-at-home orders. So I decided I would address or give this thing a shot. So this is a pattern that I got off of a website called findscrollsaw.com. According to the person who sold the pattern, it is about 100 years old, from kind of the Victorian times. And what you're seeing here is me just drilling the holes in a bunch of 1/4-inch thick walnut. So there was, as it says here, about 500 holes in there. I started off by doing a stack cut and scrolling out some of the support pieces for what will hold the shelf up eventually. This video is obviously pretty highly sped up. And during the editing, this thing came out to 20 or 30 minutes long, even sped up at 25 speed. So I had to just cut a bunch of content out and just kind of give you guys the idea of what's going on. I suppose if somebody is a big fan of watching people scroll work out, I could upload an uncut version of it to show more of what's going on here. But anyway, I'm just cutting out the supports here, going down the straight lines and just making sure that it all looks right. It's always fun cutting off those little chunks and watching little bits of the wood disappear and see the shape that's left behind. It's oddly satisfying, I suppose. So that is the end of this. If my memory serves, these pieces all by themselves took the better part of an hour to cut out. And then, of course, here's the behemoth. So I decided to just do show one cut at regular speed so you can kind of get a feel for how long it takes to do this. Every time there's a hole, I have to lift the arm up, feed the blade through, attach it to a holder, tighten it down, and then get to cutting. So this is one speed, standard speed here. Is the first piece I went for was this little sliver here, so you can see that. Now the first couple of cuts obviously did take a little bit longer. The more of these things that I did, the better I got, the more efficient I got at releasing and reattaching the blade and feeding it into holes and all that kind of good stuff. But the first couple of ones were a little bit slow, but still, this project was never going to be a fast weekend project. I wound up just spending an hour a night or so picking away at this thing and just kind of knocking it out. If memory serves, the total cutting time on this project was over 20 hours, though, so it definitely was a labor of love and a labor of just kind of investing time every night and picking it away little by little, watching progress get made. It was actually an awful lot of fun in the long run. So if I'm not mistaken, here I'll speed the video up to 25 speed. I didn't record the entire thing. I don't have enough space on my camera or on my phone to do that anyway. But this kind of gets you an idea of what it took to cut this whole piece out. The wheels, as I recall, were specifically kind of a booger. So for those of you who are, know a bit more about scroll sawing, I am doing using number 1 ultra reverse blades. I bought them from Flying Dutchman, or their Flying Dutchman brand blades. I think I got them off of Bear Woods, if I'm not mistaken, though. They're not spiral blades. I'm not a big fan of the spiral blades. I personally haven't been able to master them and get the results out of them that I've seen other people get. So I just used a straight blade. They cut really smooth. It prevents the need to go back and do a lot of sanding and filing at the end and kind of refining the cuts. So they give me something that's far closer to a finished surface than I've currently been able to achieve with my experience on spiral blades. So it was a fun challenge trying to figure out how to attack each of these shapes, some of them a little bit more intricate than others. With a straight blade, sometimes there was multiple cuts just to make 1 or 2 lines in one of the shapes there. So it was definitely fun to kind of watch these things, piece by piece fall out and start to turn into the final shape, though. All right, I haven't filmed every minute of it because I don't have enough space on my phone for that, but you are looking at a little bit over 10 hours worth of work at this point, maybe closer to 11. Anyway, we are getting there. The train is just about done. Got a little bit of the smoke to do up here and the fence, and then we'll move down to all the fun floral patterns down below. Thus far, I don't know how well it's come across on camera, but these little roundy bits here have vexed me to some degree. Getting nice, clean, roundy bits has proven to be a bit of a challenge. Some of these have come out pretty well, like here. But then others have gotten downright chunky, like here or here, where I just botched the curve. So I guess I will be getting a lot of practice down here. So that's what 10 hours and change looks like. And here we are working on the final bit. So I did all the inside cuts first and then started working on the outline little by little, cutting pieces out, releasing it, and seeing the final outside line turn into reality. It was pretty fun at this point. As I'm not mistaken, the outside took me about an hour or 2 to cut all by itself. So little by little, I was watching this thing come out. And then here is the last bit of cutting. As I'm looking at the video, I realized, crud, I picked a far lower angle than I intended, so my hand's in the way here. But there it is, and right there is the end of the cutting, at least of the main piece. There was still a shelf to cut, which I've got coming up in a second, as well as some of the grass. So, but this was the big hurdle of this entire project. So. 3, 2, 1. That is it. So there might have been some cheering in my shop when I finally got done with that, because that was a monumental effort there, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to work on. So this is the shelf. pretty simple by comparison. Honestly, the worst part about this was just these tabs. Not cutting them out, but making these tabs fit into the slots that I cut on the locomotive backer. There was a lot of filing and finessing to get them to go, to get them to fit. So I still need to work on my technique there. But ultimately, of course, this was pretty simple. The grass, honestly, was a nightmare just because of how many cuts there are and trying to make all those little pieces get cut out and also, keep the tips sharp. I didn't want to snap them off or round them over. So it was honestly a little bit harder to do this than I thought it was going to be because I was trying not to come in from the edge on each individual blade of grass. So, but you can kind of get an idea here for the approach that I chose to take on this thing here. So ultimately, I was very happy with how this came out in the end. And there we go. Nice swooping curve to end it up. I made the grass out of cherry, whereas the rest of the project was made out of walnut. Little glamour shot there. And here I am, putting my brand on the bottom, just to document it. And gluing and clamping it up. This wasn't too bad. For Christmas last year, I was given a bunch of these very small light-duty clamps, and for this project, they came in quite handy. So there was a slight unevenness to the gap that I cut or the gap that I sanded one way or the other. So I used this this square here, engineer square to hold it at a perfect 90 degree. Clamped each one in individually, because I needed so many clamps just to kind of keep everything where I wanted it to be. Unfortunately, I forgot to film the rest of it, so I'm not going to be able to show the shelf going on or the grass, but you'll see that in the finished product in a second here. So, and there it is. So, super happy with that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.